Yeah. Good sheep. Thank you, Rosie. There you go. Good sheep. Thank you, my Rosie. Thank you, my Rosie. Yeah. Thank you, my Rosie. Thank you, my Rosie. Oh, you boogie, boogie, boogie. Good sheep. Yeah. Good sheep. 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 Yeah. Good sheep. Yeah. Good sheep. Yeah. Good sheep. Good sheep. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rosie. I 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 thank you, Rosie. My Rosie here is making just under half a gallon a day now. This is her first lactation. Their first lactation. By that I mean their first time that they've lambed. She's only lambed once. This is her first time, and they always produce the smallest amount the first time, and they make more the second time, and they make even more the third time. And then the subsequent times after that, they make the same highest amount as the third. They don't usually go up in production anymore, but they stay the same. And yeah. So a half gallon of sheep milk is 2,100 calories, and she's just under a half gallon. Some days she gives me a half gallon. Yeah. So that's almost 2,000 calories a day that you're providing me. Thank you, Rosie. This has been like 5 months or something that you've been providing. Maybe 4 months. For being such a small dairy sheep, you're a good producer, and having such a small udder, you have a pretty small attached udder. There we go. Getting all the thick stuff out. Takes a while for it to get down to then, because sheep milk is so much fattier. Oh my goodness, thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rosie. Good sheep. Thank you, Rose Mama. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Rosie. Good sheep. Thank you, Mama. All right. We slept at our friend's old property that caught on fire. I guess that was like a year ago now. And most of the trees are growing back. It's really freaking beautiful. Really awesome. Really awesome. We were right back there behind all the tall trees, the dead ones that are back there. They were all filled in, and we had no line of sight of anything that was this way. And meanwhile, the entire orchard here was on fire, as you can see in my video of it. We got a call from a friend, and was freaking out. He's like, "Are you still on the property?" And I was like, "Yeah, what are you talking about?" And he's like, the property's on fire. And I was like, I had thought that the fire was just way over there, 5 miles away in Ashland. But the wind comes through the valley straight this way. The valley is oriented this way, and the wind comes through it, and so all the smoke that I was seeing in the morning, because I had slept right here actually. I had slept right here and woke up in the morning, and like 7 o'clock in the morning I started seeing like some smoke coming from Ashland, and I was like, oh shit, we got a urban fire. And so then my sheep, I was grazing here at night, and then I pulled the wagon around the back to where our water source is and where some shade is and some lush plants, and I was grazing back there for like 4 hours. Meanwhile, the wind started picking up through the valley, and the embers from that fire carried all along the way and set like multiple fires, and then they all filled in, and one of the embers set down right here in the orchard and caught it on fire. And yeah, like I said, I had no idea that this was on fire and had 20-foot flames until he called me, and likely because the wind is going like this, it did spread. I mean, it spread all the way back to here. So if I hadn't had the heads up that there was a fire until I actually like saw the flames through the trees, or maybe by then I would have seen the smoke that close, because the smoke was like picking up and going over there, and I was right underneath those tall trees, like underneath them, so I couldn't, if I looked straight up, I couldn't even see anything because the trees were kind of growing over. So yeah, I would have had to wait till I heard the crackling of the fire and seen the light of the fire. And by then it might have even been too late, because you can't get out of that property going that way. Nor would I have wanted to go that way, because the wind was going that way a little bit. It just would have been really, really close getting my sheep all together and tethered to the wagon to pull the wagon out. I could have pulled the wagon out myself and they would have followed me, I guess. That's probably what I would have ended up having to do, is just grab the wagon and pull it out myself. But by then it'd be like the flames would be over us. So yeah, we pulled it out to the road, and then we saw a line of cars when we got out there. Line of cars were trying to evacuate going out, and they were bumper to bumper. So we went out on Culver, and we were actually making much better progress than all the bumper to bumper traffic by us walking on the side of the road all the way around Culver, and like halfway out to freaking like Jacksonville. We were ahead of everyone else. But then yeah, right at that halfway point where it started going straight out towards Jacksonville, that was the escape route. 2 more fires popped up from flying embers, and they were their smoke was going directly in the line of that evacuation route turn, and that's fine for cars to be driving through that, because they got air conditioners and windows, but we would have died from smoke inhalation. So I had to make the tough call at that point to turn around and head that way. So I headed back and headed that way to avoid the fires, because the wind was going this way. Yeah, it was scary. But what I'm really pleased about to see today, because we've only been through here a couple times, because there's there hasn't been any plants. There wasn't any green at all for like 3 to 6 months. So I thought I'd stop by my friend's property here last night to see if they had anything green, and it looks like we actually missed the onions being green, and I was really sad at first, but it actually looks like we're perfectly on time to pick the wild onions. They are primo right now. Primo. Absolutely primo. And there is billions of them. So I'm gonna pick some onions and get my year's supply of onion. So flavorful. so much more complex than a regular onion. I collected like a gallon's Ziploc bag worth like 2 years ago, and I tried to dry them out to the point where they wouldn't get any mold growing on them, which I thought I had done, but apparently like after 3 months I started growing mold on them in the Ziploc bag. So if you dry them out too much, then they lose their flavor. So I think what I'm going to try to do this time is dry them out to the point right before they lose their flavor, but then put salt in there in the bag and try to prevent mold from growing. This is so perfect too because I went to the food, came into town to, this is so perfect too because I came into town yesterday to try to get some potatoes from the food bank, and they barely had any. They only gave me 3. Luckily I have like, I don't know, 6 other ones left over from my farmer friend, buying me some before I started farm sitting for him the weekend. And but the food bank didn't have any onions either, so this works out perfectly. And you can pull up, you can't twist, you gotta pull, and then take your fingernail behind the rootlet in the back and pull that off. And you don't really have to worry about separating the sheath, because it's going to dry out and crumble, and you'll be able to winnow it away. But I dropped it. These little seed, I don't even know what they're called, but they're in a really hard sheath that stays intact no matter how you thresh it. You have to pick it apart like this, but it's worth it because the little pearl inside is the most flavorful part of the whole plant. The seeds are flavorful, but they're kind of spicy, like onions are. The bulb is the next best flavor. It's not like overpowering, it's sweeter. And then these little pearls are the best, and especially if you leave them in their little hard paper sheet. They're the only part of the plant that doesn't mold over time. And after a couple months of you continue to let them dry out, they start to turn tan. They shrink and start to turn tan and then light brown, and they just get more and more flavorful. They're so amazing. They start to like ferment basically, and inside their little shells, and the flavor changes. They freaking get more and more amazing. So awesome. It looks like I missed the asparagus season. I didn't know if they would grow back. There was nothing really growing. But this is asparagus just in this late stage. And it's red seeds, red little berries. But at least I'm in time for the wild onion season. Rosie. You're my Rosie. She's enjoying the onions too. It's a lot less efficient for her though, because she's gotta try to isolate each individual one from the top, and I'm able to take my fingers and like comb through the bottom of the stem and draw it up and snap off several at a time, like you do wild broccoli heads. That surprisingly took me 2 hours to fill this 2-gallon stock pot. A little under 2 hours, but oh, it's heavy. And just in time, because the sun is starting to poke through the smoke, and it's starting to get hot. Good sheep. Yeah. Getting a wild prickly lettuce, dried leaves. I love those. Yeah, this is definitely a year's worth of onion seasoning, because these little seeds are, because they're wild, they are a lot more flavorful than domesticated onion flavor. I've never tried domesticated onion, cultivated like onion seed. So I don't know how strong a flavor they are, but in comparison to like onions, like if I filled this thing up with chopped onions, it would only last me like, even if it was able to, you know, stay pristine and preserved, it would only last me like a week or two, maybe. But these are like 10 times more flavorful than cultivated onion bulbs. So this will definitely last me a whole year, because I collected a 1 gallon bag. I collected about half of this 2 years ago. It was collected about half of this, and it fed me for like 3 months. And I didn't even put a dent in the bag before the mold started growing on them, even though I had like kept the bag open and tried to continue drying them out so that it wouldn't have enough moisture for the mold to grow. It ended up growing, so that's why this time I'm going to keep them in a paper bag, and after 3 months I'm going to start salting them, maybe beforehand, just to prevent any possibility of mold growing. Yeah, good stuff. And now it's time to milk again. Finish this off and milk my sheep again.